Welcome to our to the next panel here on ICBC. We are talking about the question: what does GMP really mean? Of course, we all know GMP means good manufacturing practice. But what's behind it? Is there any differences within the national regulations? Is there a difference between European regulations and US regulations? And I'm glad to have two experts here on the podium, on the panel, which is Nina Kempf from Switzerland. He's owning a cannabis company there. And he's a CEO of Charlie's Lab, and of hemp care I know a lot, but the other one I was not so familiar with. Tell me about your two projects, please, Nima.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. So as Misha said, from Switzerland, the CEO of Swiss Hemp Care and Charlie's Lab. Swiss Hemp Care has nothing to do with GMP. It's a recreational brand. We grow CBD, high content CBD strains in Switzerland. And then we also produce oils and sell those oils. It's a lifestyle brand. Charlie's Lab is the GMP part. That's why I'm sitting here. We started it about 2.5 years ago. And now we are shortly before the certification process by Swissmedic, which is the authority in Switzerland which certifies companies and manufacturers. And that's the Charlie's Lab part. And so, as I just said, end of this year, we should receive the certification shortly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nima. And to my left, we have Peter SIGETTY, who is that pronounced the right way?
SIGETTY.
SIGETTY, okay, yeah. And he's the CEO and the founder of Welcome Medical. And Welcome Medical is a Danish company specialized in extraction of cannabis. And Peter's going to tell us a little bit more about the profile of his company.
So first of all, a small disclaimer. I was presented as an expert on GMP. I think I have a commercial background, so that will be sort of my perspective on GMP, and not so much on a specialized quality assurance or regulatory perspective. But Welcome Medical is based in Denmark. We are GMP certified under the Danish law for medical cannabis. We're a contract manufacturer. So what we do is we support the growers in Denmark to make extracted products that they can sell under their own brand. We also have a white label product, a THC white label product that we are bringing to market later this year. And also selling bulk. So we received our license here in the end of May this year, after an inspection from the Danish Medicines Agency. And now we have products in stability and are looking forward to the results.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. And as many of you know, we have a different GMP regulations all over the world. Within the European community, the GMP regulations are kind of homogenized, but the national application routines are still differ from country to country. We come to that later. Nina will tell us how the application process works in Switzerland. Pete will tell us how the application process works in Denmark. And then I regret that we don't have anybody from overseas here on the panel, because in the United States we have even a different regulation. It's called CGMP. CGMP means current good manufacturing practice, which is updated every year. In the European community, we have we have GMP regulations which are updated every few years. In the USA, the GMP regulation is updated every year, and it's even more stricter. But the USA also accepts the German and the European GMP regulations, but not every country. You can look that up in the Mutual Recognition Agreement, the MRA agreement. And Germany's GMP is regulations are accepted since 2019 from the USA. So anybody who wants to know more about that should just check the MRA regulations, and it's mentioned there country by country, which country can export medical products under GMP regulations to the US, and which national regulations the US, the FDA, does not accept. Okay, then I start with the European regulations, because despite we have an official homogenization in the European community and in Switzerland, national application routines, as I said before, are different. And so NIMA, please tell us, what did you have to do to get a GMP license in Switzerland?
So maybe just to say the same as Peter said, to call expert, me personally would say that's a very too good description. Maybe in 5 years I would call myself an expert. So what you need for GMP, with my knowledge, what I have now, is definitely a lot of money. That's always good. The right people with the right knowledge, and a bulletproof plan. So we started, we had big ideas, we wanted to do everything. And now basically it's tailored down to something very small and specific, and for what we then specifically applied. So there are forms that you need to fill out by the Swissmedic, which I said before is the authority in Switzerland which certifies companies. We applied for specifically blending oils now, in different percentages, which we also defined already. Filling them in 10, 30, and 50 milliliter bottles, and capping them and labeling them. So that's the whole GMP chain that we applied for. Everything before, we didn't do that. No extraction, that's what Peter's doing. So I'll be the customer of Peter soon, we just realized before. And then we can bring GMP products on the market. So basically, you need the right team, you need to build up the quality management system, you need to know exactly what you want to do, what product the inspector wants to know exactly what you intend to do, is it realistic? And then the process from the day you give your application in can take up to 18 months until they give the certification. So that's basically the procedure in Switzerland, yeah.
And with that application, or as soon as you have it, you're also allowed to export to other European countries, because Switzerland is not part of the EU, but this form is accepted in other countries as well, isn't it?
That's correct. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And my question to Peter is: you are from a country within the European community. Denmark is a member of the European community, and in the green room before, you told me still your application is a little bit different from, for example, the German application form. And first of all, why do we need GMP in the cannabis pharma? Why do we need GMP?
So I guess, what is GMP, which is kind of like the question here, and is it different or not? I would say within Europe, it's pretty clear to me what it is, because the European Commission and the EMA have set out the guidelines, which is in the EUDRALEX and the directives. Then it's up to each country to implement those directives in their own law. And then there is also the ICH guidelines. So basically the whole framework for, and all the rules and guidelines and regulations exists and are the same. When it comes to cannabis, I guess the whole purpose of GMP is taking care of the patients, really, and making sure that there is consistency, traceability, everything. And as cannabis is a medicine, and it's a prescription medicine that's being prescribed to people with illnesses, then of course it should be produced under GMP. Now, in Denmark, we have a special law governing medical cannabis, because it does differ from other medicine that just applies to the medicine law. And the reason for that is partly also that we don't have to go through clinical trials. And that's really the catch with medical cannabis, that's how it really differs from conventional medicine, so to speak, or pharmaceuticals. So the application process in Denmark and the inspection from the Danish Medicines Agency is very much the same as it is for other companies producing medicine. Everything we do is embedded in the UDRALEX and in the law, and they do a GMP inspection. The license we get is the same as a GMP certification. It's just under the Danish cannabis law. The catch is, I would say, when you have your GMP certification as a manufacturer, is the product registration. And that's where country to country it really differs a lot. Because in Denmark, as an example, under the Danish program, you can produce a product under GMP, a flower or an oil, and you can file a product registration application. And if it's approved, it's on the market and it's on the pharmacy shelf, branded under your company brand, and the doctor prescribes it to the patient. Right now, we have gel capsules on the market in Denmark. There's still magistral prepared cannabis on the market too. But as we are going to see more products coming into the market, it's also going to be a lot more common for the doctors to prescribe cannabis because they have more options. In Germany, I'm not an expert on it yet, but I know that it has to go through some steps in a magistral process. It cannot just be registered and put on the pharmacy shelf. There's a few additional steps. And that's really where it differs a lot within the European Union, the last step of the supply chain.
Would you say, Peter, that this is one of the reasons why Denmark, meanwhile, has, I think, 6 cannabis producers, and the law is not as long implemented as it was in Germany? It's much newer. And you're in this. Is it easier to start in the industry due to the regulations or to the registration, to the cannabis medicine registration? Would you say it's easier to make a startup in Denmark?
I would say nothing is easy when it comes to starting a cannabis company, and I think most people in this room will recognize that. I guess the framework we have in Denmark is more transparent, and the room we have to conduct commercial operations is probably also more transparent. As I think I heard earlier, there's only really 3 licenses for cultivation and some extraction that has been granted in Germany. Whereas in Denmark, I think there were at a time about 50 companies that had gotten a development license, which means that you are allowed to practice sort of with cannabis until you're ready for your inspection. So easier, that's a relative word, but I would say more transparent, yes, I believe so.
Thank you. NIMA, a short look to Switzerland. When I see all those CBD productions in Switzerland, I see some of them are GMP, some of them are not. So what advantages do you have as a GMP producer in Switzerland?
It's a good question. I think it depends what we're talking about. Is it flower production? Because if it's flower production, it can currently only be for export. So that's already paints the picture for Switzerland. We only have small patients for certain oils, which are produced under GMP. Yeah, so you do need that plus the narcotic license because it's still a narcotic in Switzerland, the THC. But
CBD is a narcotic in Switzerland?
THC. No, CBD is basically free. Depends then in what kind of products you put it on the market. depends then on under what regulations it falls, then the whole novel food story comes. So maybe I'll just use that example. So at the moment, as we speak, many oils, CBD oils under 0.2% are been taken out from the stores, from the pharmacists, the cantonal pharmacists, which have the power to do that. And just last week, they came to a store where our product was inside, and we had a different approach of registering the product and also the whole documentation, which we already have. I mean, we don't have the GMP certification yet, but 95% of the SOPs are all already in place. We're already working like GMP. Our products do cost more because the employees cost more, the QPs cost a lot of money, and it just costs, the costs are very high. And when we talked to the cantonal pharmacist and showed him all the paperwork we have, at the end, our oils are still on the shelf now. So I think that is a major difference. It shows that there's some security behind that. And they also understand we want to bring safe products to the shelves.
Yeah. In generally, also we speak about two very different markets, because in Switzerland, CBD is also a recreational product, but also a medical product sold in pharmacies. In Denmark, there is actually, in your company, we only talk about medical grade products. And what would you say in Denmark? What's about the domestic market? We're talking about exporting all the time, but what is about the domestic market? What's about selling GMP products in Danish pharmacies? Is that already a big market there?
Well, I mean, we're obviously also focused on export because Denmark is a small country with only about 6 million people. So it's not a huge market, but I think when we're talking markets, it also comes down to the doctor's perception of medical cannabis. The challenge in Denmark is that the doctors don't really understand it, and they're not educated, and they're very reluctant to prescribing it. So instead, we have some cannabis clinics that are specialized in prescribing it, and confident with having patients and starting them up on medical cannabis. Same thing as at the hospitals. They also have doctors that are using medical cannabis and prescribing it out of the hospital. We have seen some products on the Danish market. There was an oil that was imported from Canada. It was on the market for about, I think it was 2 years or a little less than 2 years before it was unfortunately taken off the market again. In 3 years and 2 quarters, I think the total cannabis sales was about 10 million euros in Denmark, which is definitely not insignificant. And there is a reimbursement program that's 50% for patients of the price they pay at the pharmacy, and 100% if you're terminally ill. So I think we will see over time when more products come into the market, because now there's really only one, which is the gel capsules. We'll start to see that the doctors get more confident in prescribing it. The patients are showing good effects. And I guess that's when it will start to be more normalized, and a general perception in the public that this is a thing that works for many patients. And that's when the acceptance will come. What I hope is that if we manage to do that in Denmark as sort of a platform that works well, other countries within the EU will look at us as a case and take some of the knowledge we have created to open up the markets there.
Thank you, Peter. In Switzerland, NIMA, it's a little bit different situation. You have a very big recreational CBD market. You have kind of a small medical CBD market in Switzerland. And as you told before, you have the possibility to export GMP products. Is there any idea, or do you know, or would it be possible to export GMP a CBD flower and products to German pharmacies? Is there anything going on in this direction?
So me personally, since we do not produce the GMP flowers, I'm not really 100% up to date with that. But I would now assume that if you can register a medicinal product, which is a flower with certain content of CBD and THC, then and it meets all the parameters, then I don't see really an issue with that.
Yeah, because I was thinking in German pharmacies, we have a very small range of CBD strains, and Switzerland has a very big range of CBD strains, and a lot of patients in Germany say, oh, I don't find the right CBD strain, and I wonder why no company had the idea yet to import medical grade cannabis with a GMP production certificate to Germany, because it's also paid better in the pharmacy. You know, in Switzerland, there's a very big competition on the CBD market, and if you can export to a German pharmacy or to a German medical market, the prices are much more stable than what you have in Switzerland. What you have in Switzerland right now. So you don't know anything going on in this direction. What about CBD flower production or extraction in Denmark? Is that also a big thing?
Well, I can't really speak for the retail market or the cosmetics or fast-moving consumer goods, because we're not at all involved in that. We're only focused on medical and prescription medicine. But in that context, with CBD, that's also a product that's going to be available from us too. So extracting CBD flower that's cultivated under GACP and GMP as well. But it is prescription medicine in Denmark, and it's not allowed as a retail product.
Oh, it's prescription medicine in Denmark, so that also differs from the rest of the European market, kind of, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there is obviously opportunities to buy it online and whatnot, but no, it's not allowed under any novel food or anything in Denmark. You see products that's extracted from hemp. It's hemp seed oil branded as CBD. So yeah, it's a little bit of a gray zone, and I don't know much about it, but it's not a huge thing in Denmark, this retail CBD.
As we see, like two countries and two very different circumstances, as I say, and I'd really like to go a lot deeper into it, but time runs away. We only have, I think, 4 minutes left for this panel, and this is the time for the audience for questions. So anybody who has questions to me or the panelists, please.
It is the time for questions. I need my exercise.
Hello, my name is Renaud Mignon. I'm from the Holland Green Science Group. You asked one question, Michael, is why do we have GMP anyway? I can think of these things, but there was not an answer, a straight answer. Maybe the panel can answer that question.
Peter?
Yeah, I actually believe that I did mention it, but no, why we have GMP, that's because of the patients. It's rules and regulations embedded in directives from the European Commission and the EMA to protect the patients and take care of patient safety. So GMP, I mean, it's rules that you comply with. It's the way you build your company based on those guidelines, and it's consistency, it's traceability, it's patient safety, really.
And also for the recreational market, is that the same?
Well, he was asking if it's the same for the recreational market, and we don't have a recreational market in Denmark, so we can maybe hear over here.
I can answer this question. For example, the recreational market, which is gonna be, or hopefully gonna be built up in Switzerland, is planned to be GMC, which is not as high as GMP.
Over here.
Yes, hello, my name is Martin. Mr. NIMA, maybe this is for you. What is the difference between what you do than what standard pharmaceutical companies do for producing syrups or medicinal shampoos, etc., because you are only doing blending and packaging, as I understand. So what are the difference in the regulations if you do it with cannabis-based products?
So we are just purely concentrating on the filling, capping, blending, because for us in Switzerland, that was the most clear way we can go without going into any gray area. And we wanted to have a bulletproof business plan and not hope, okay, novel food will kick in, will not kick in. So basically, we can fill and cap then anything. It doesn't have to be cannabis at the end of the day. That's like plan B in case everything, goes the wrong way, basically. So we chose that strategy that in case that route doesn't work, we can do that. Our lab also does analytics. We also focus on analytics on different cannabinoids. We're working a lot on those because we believe in the different compositions working together. And then we also have 2 other technologies which we will implement in the laboratory. And we are purely focusing on that, especially in the cannabis side. Yeah.
And if I'm allowed to add, I think anybody should know when it comes to GMP, the packaging is the most, the thing you have to invest the most money in. Yeah, the production, of course, if you don't make the production yourself, you just have to do the packaging, but the packaging is a very big investment, isn't it?
It's not cheap. Yeah.
Any more questions? We have time for one more question.
Apparently, you are very comprehensive.
Okay, then we are again the ones who saved the time for the next panelist, so we catch up the 5 minutes we lost before. I would suggest. And I thank you, Peter, for being here, and thank you, Nima, for being here. I think we got a very good information on GMP practices. And maybe let me ask you a very, very final question. How important is GMP to have cannabis accepted by the traditional pharmaceutical industry?
Well, I believe that it's more the doctors and the patient safety, so GMP is vital. Being a doctor, having an ill patient with a serious disease or being under chemotherapy or whatever, it's vital for them that cannabis medicine is produced under GMP. That's, I would say, that's the whole concept and the whole idea is patient safety.
Would you agree if I say without GMP, cannabis had no chance to be accepted cannabis medicine has no chance to be accepted on a broad range?
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nima. Thank you, Pete. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of ICBC. Enjoy the evening.
That was fantastic. Thank you so very much. Let's hear it again.
Tomorrow.